Hi, and welcome to VIBEZ Daily. This is a daily devotional curated by VIBEZ Church to help you practice the way of Jesus and be all that God has called you to be. You have joined us for our year-long series titled Devoted. Acts 2:42 tells us that the followers of Jesus were devoted to the apostles' teaching, to fellowship, to breaking of bread, and to prayer. This podcast was created to provide context and commentary for what you read each day. Just before our friends begin discussing today's reading, we want to invite you not only for fellowship, but for prayer as well. We have created the VIBE Daily Chat Group to offer you fellowship and a community where you can state your observations, ask questions about the reading or the podcast. You can join us by downloading the VIBEZ Church app in your favorite app store. Click Join the Conversation and join us today. And finally, we hope that you can join us for prayer. Prayer happens Monday through Friday, and more information on that can be found on the VIBEZ Church app under prayer. Now, let's begin our conversation on today's reading.
Hi, and welcome to our VIBEZ Daily podcast. You are joining us today on day 157 of our series entitled Devoted.
Yes.
I'm here with my friends Shameeka and Meya.
Hey.
And we are in Job still, y'all.
Yep.
Still in Job. This is like second week still in Job. They still talking.
Yes.
Still going back and forth. Today we're going through chapters 26 through 30. And so here we are. We are at chapter 26. Job is replying to his friend Bildad, who just spoke yesterday, so where we left off. Yeah. Thoughts?
Okay, you guys, what am I going to talk about?
Yeah.
Verse
number
number 2.
Verse 2, been holding it down for
Yes.
you.
So Bildad made some accusations, and Job says, "How have you helped the powerless and delivered the arm that is weak?" That right there, right there,
good.
that's enough.
That's
But
good.
in 3, he goes, "How have you counseled the unwise?" Like, so you have allegations. Okay, show me the receipts. Of
Yeah.
yours. What exactly have you done since you got so much to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 4 for me. Like, so you got 2 and 3, I got
Yep.
4. Let's
Hold it
continue
down.
on.
Yeah.
So I love how he mentioned in verse 4, who has helped you utter these words and whose spirit spoke from your mouth.
Yeah.
Because we spoke about that earlier where it was like a spirit, and I can't remember if it was Bildad or not, but either way, one of the friends, like, a spirit came and was whispering stuff to them. And I think what we don't understand or realize is that when we speak, we are speaking from a spirit. Either we're speaking from the Holy Spirit and from, God and those things that are right and righteous, or it's the opposite, which is from Satan and those that are not true and everything. And so I love that one, again, he's defending himself saying, first of all, what you're saying is not true. I know it's not of God or from God, because I know my character and I know the kind of relationship I have with God. So whose spirit are you coming from?
Exactly.
And so that was a good one, Joe.
I looked because that's how I am, and it was Eliphaz.
Yes.
Yeah. He said that, so it's still one of the boys.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they still coming from the wrong spirit. So
Exactly.
all of them, all of them wrong.
Could have got that whisper.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so funny because I love that you said that. Like, it's like this accountability. Like, okay, so all of you guys are looking at me. All you guys are judging me. All you guys are like, have your opinions. But how much have you upheld in this? Like, are you holding yourself to that same standard?
Yeah,
Right.
Right.
that's
And that's
good.
the whole, like, what Jesus was saying, like, how can you check out the speck in his eye when you have a log in yours,
whole
right?
Yes.
Like a
that's
whole
good.
like let's not do that. Let God be the judge. Let him be the one to we are here to keep each other accountable. Like, hey friend. But the bashing and the tearing down and the hey, you not this, you not that, like
Right.
that's not what we're here for.
No.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, but I do love though, at the end of the day, like he's like before, like this is a God thing, like
Yes.
like, and I love how he continues to just go into 7 and down, like saying all the things that God does,
Yeah.
and
it's
God's
beautiful.
might, right, and His
Yeah.
power. So it's kind of like, yeah, this is what. First of all, what are you talking about? Because you probably done worse. And then secondly, like, like let's revere God here.
Yeah.
Like, because he's the only one that's in control
Yeah.
of all of this.
Yeah, let's refocus on what's important.
Right.
You're not important, I'm not important, but he's important. So let's kind of shift our target right there.
Yeah.
And that's why I like, if you guys are ready to go
Yeah.
to chapter 27.
Yeah, let's do it.
I highlighted so much stuff, but before before I even get to some of the stuff, I do love, to your point, in verse 11, he says, I will teach you about the power of God. The ways of the Almighty I will not conceal. It was like, it was his way of saying, like, yeah, like, clearly y'all don't even know what y'all saying. And so, like, let me teach you and kind of school you on, like, who my God, my creator and father is.
And like Mia was saying yesterday, like, this man is in the lowest of his lowest state.
Yeah.
And he's still giving out like sermons and lectures. Like, listen, we're professing at this
Yeah,
point.
like
Like,
a whole dissertation.
come on. Like, he is like, tap, is the mic on? Students, are you listening? Sit down and take notes.
Yeah.
Like, he still has the strength. But go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and a day or so ago we were discussing that one of his friends said, "Oh, you don't even know God," and so now he's like, "Well, let me explain to you who God is and what He is."
Right.
So it's just like an after rebuttal. Like, he's like, "I didn't forget what you said the other day."
Yeah.
So I'm just speak on that right now.
Come on.
Yeah, because even what he's saying in verse 2 through 6 isn't like directly from what the previous person just said. Like you say, he just lets it marinate and he just drops it back in a little bit later. Because here this is where he is defending his own integrity.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, okay, listen, as surely as God lives, like, who has put his spirit, like the spirit of God is in my nostrils. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm not going to speak these false things. I'm not going to lie. And he was like, I will, I love this in verse 5. I will never affirm that you are right. I will maintain my integrity until I die. I will cling to my righteousness and never let it go. My conscience will not accuse me as long as I live.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I know what I know.
Yeah.
And y'all can say whatever you want. And which is so impressive, because at this point you would think like maybe maybe I did do something.
Right.
Like, maybe I'm not, what I thought. Like, well, maybe. But he's like, yeah, nah. Like, I'm in clear mind. I know what I've done.
Right.
I know my integrity.
Right. And sorry, I was about to say, and of course we know he's not coming from a haughty place of
No.
or at all, but what stuck out to me as I read it for a second time was his innocence was all he really had.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, if I'm going to hold on to one thing, it's going to be this. Like, I know I'm not in wrong standing. If I give that over in a way to you guys, like, what more do I have?
That's
like,
all I have.
Again, we talked about his kids was taken. Like, everybody's looking at him like he, whatever. Like, he's dealing with, like, the leprosy with his skin. Now his friends attacking him. Like, I don't have nothing else. But if I'm going to stand on something is my integrity. Like, that's all I have. So I definitely looked at that scripture in a different way this time around.
Yeah.
I think for me, that is like, I try to read this and apply it to my day to day. And so how many times, I can't speak for anybody else, have I been like upset and I'm like on the line of losing my integrity. Like, when we're upset or we're not doing well or struggling, we feel justified. Like, well, let me just tell you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the fact that, that was just beautiful to me. I will cling to my righteousness and never let it go. I lose a grip sometimes, like when I'm just trying to catch it. But that's beautiful because I've never gone through all of the things that he's gone through, and I get a rough email and I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
So just that is a good reminder,
That's
like,
good.
to cling on to your righteousness, cling on to your integrity no matter what happens.
For sure.
Like, don't, like you said, that was the only thing he had. That's really the only thing that we have. Like, our allegiance to God and just holding fast to that. And that goes along with your righteousness and your integrity and things of that nature. So
Yeah. Which is a huge statement to say. Like, that's a lot of weight to put on
For sure.
your actions and like who you've been. Like, I don't know if I could stand on my own integrity. You know,
Yeah.
For sure.
you know, like, but the fact that like that's something to really aspire to. Like
Yeah.
that's something that I'm really like. At the end of the day, like there was no question in his mind on what he did.
Yeah.
You know, and my goodness, do I want to be like that one day?
Right.
Like
One day.
I want to be like you, where I can say, "Oh no, I did the right thing." Because you know how many days I go to bed, I'm just like, "Dang,
Did I do the right thing?
I shouldn't have said it that way." Or how many times I tiptoe back to the kids' room, I'm like, Mimi, like, "Mommy, sorry,
Yes.
I got a little upset. I'm so sorry."
The
Right?
conviction.
Right.
I raised my voice.
Conviction.
Yeah, like I raised my voice. And I'm so sorry I raised my voice that way. And, you know, all the
Yeah.
things. And so, like, I can't go to sleep sometimes saying, like, I can just know for sure that it wasn't me.
Yeah.
Like,
And that part, like, again, I'm thinking about his boys, the fact that they could go to sleep and they didn't
Right.
feel convicted. They just said what they said and they stood on that.
Indeed.
Loud and wrong.
That's
loud and wrong.
Just thank you. Loud and wrong.
But they, I mean, what you said just really triggered me. They could sleep at night. Not only could they sleep at night, they can get up and then come back
And come
come
right back
with the heat.
with new strength.
Yeah.
like, oh wow.
And another thing.
Yeah. And let me add something else. Like, sir,
No, that's real.
you were sleeping good. I was over here with the leprosy. Like,
right.
yeah,
Right.
So
I like I like that you guys pointed that out, because what it shows me about Job is that he constantly lived this life of like awareness and and caution, like to like his words and how he was treating people and all
Yeah.
that stuff. And it really does take a level of awareness to be able to do that, because you're able to kind of fine tooth comb, like kind of like really evaluate yourself at the end of the day and say, you know, and evaluate yourself with God and have that conversation of like, okay, where have I wrong? Where have I done, like, you know, all these different things. And so I think that's why also he can stand on business with like, no, I am a man of integrity, all that stuff, because it wasn't just something that he said, it was something that he practiced
Right.
and walked out continuously.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
No, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, so 27 or 28 and 29 we can actually I guess through 30 too, so we'll just take the whole thing if we want, if we see anything
Okay.
here on to 30.
I think we did a good job on 27. So
Yeah.
anybody have anything to say on 28? What stood out?
I will say, like, in this first verse, it always kind of like amazes me to see like just kind of the resources and the different things that they had, because in my mind sometimes when I think about the Old Testament or back in the day, if you will, like I'm like, I can't imagine them having like gold and silver and like all these different things, but that was like one of the things that that stuck out to me. But I do love this title because it's in my Bible, it says like this is an interlude where wisdom is found, and how we get to like see this conversation in regards to speaking of wisdom.
Yeah, I think it was really impressive. Like you said, the knowledge and the wisdom that they had. Like I think for me, I would say like, oh, we know these things because we're modern day society with all these scientific tools and things. And just to know how long ago this was, and they're talking about what's happening in the depths of the earth, like this whole fire and stuff. I'm like, how do you know?
Mining for silver?
Exactly.
How were you mining?
Right.
What did you have?
Like, how do you know that like there's fire in the depths of the earth that's creating these jewels and stuff? Like that's just crazy.
No sense.
Yeah.
I feel like they were so well in my version it says a hymn to wisdom. So wisdom is like, I feel like they have a lot more wisdom than we do. We got Professor Google. we got all the things.
That's true.
And I couldn't tell you half this stuff. Like mining for silver, that still gets me. Gold is refined. So not only were they finding the gold, they were refining the gold.
The gold.
So
yeah.
This is a lot.
Yeah, we have Ophir, we have sapphire being talked about.
Right.
Corals and crystals and pearls. I'm like,
The lapis.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
lapis. I'm like,
Yeah.
Yes.
And they said with the flecks of gold in there. Too.
With the flecks,
That's a
the
special
specks.
kind. Yeah. It's not hard. It's hard to find.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because this is Job speaking here.
Yep.
And through the mouth of Job, where we know God's spirit lives, like, is this wisdom?
That's true. Which reminded me a lot of Solomon.
Yeah.
I did have moments
Yeah.
reading just him speak and thinking of Solomon with that wisdom.
Yeah, and then some of these aspects can also be attributed to Solomon building the temple and things like the things that he's talking about, you know, the gold and the silver and the, you know, all of the gems and all that kind of stuff. So that does parallel really well with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I telling you, I love Job because he's just proven himself to be like just as the guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my title says, "Where is wisdom?" for this chapter, and in verse 23 it says he kind of like answers the question of like God understands the way to it, and He knows its place.
Yeah.
When He looks at the ends of the earth, and He sees everything under the heavens, and so it's kind of like. I'm sorry, and then verse 28, he said to man, behold, the fear of the Lord, that is wisdom.
Yes.
And to turn away from evil is understanding.
Come on, Proverbs in the middle of Job.
Right.
Job has like a lot of everything in there.
Yes.
I'm seeing David. I'm seeing
Yep.
Solomon.
Yep.
I'm seeing all sorts.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
And so
this is good.
I love it because he just tells them straight up, and it'd be different if he was like, I'm speaking the words of wisdom. Like, no, he still points everything back to God.
yeah.
Like, God is the wisdom.
In his
Yeah.
affliction, he's still doing
Yes.
this. So.
Come on, in his affliction.
And like you said, this whole, where do you think Satan is on the sideline?
Right.
Looking at this and seeing God still get the honor
Yes.
for all creation, for
Yeah.
all wisdom, for all things happening under the sun. Like, he's still getting that without Job saying it in like a nasty way
Yeah.
or like, you know.
He's still being like cognizant of what he's doing. And you know, when you said where is the enemy in this, I'm going back to a day or so ago when one of his friends was like, I'm angry. And I feel like that is the enemy speaking through him. Like, because the enemy is angry that this is not going down
That's good.
how he wanted it to.
I like that.
So the enemy is really, really affecting his friends.
Absolutely.
Because I'm like, I hope, I mean, not that I hope that they're influenced by the enemy, but I hope this is not your real heart. I hope that you're just having a moment where you need some blessed oil, something. And that has to be not how you normally would be.
Yeah.
So I feel like in these words and all of that, that's the pride and the deception of the enemy speaking through them kind of thing.
But you know what's crazy though? Like one of the things we don't see, even though it could be this conversation that he's having with the enemy's having with God, whenever in the previous chapters that we read outside of Job, where people were influenced by the enemy or like whatever, it would say it. Like God would say like, and you probably know or y'all know better than I do, but like it'll say something like, how basically like God used them to like you get what I'm saying?
Like the Lord
Yeah.
incited so
I'm
and so
thinking
against
of Judas.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that kind of
Yeah.
situation.
Exactly.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
So,
And like the Lord used them against them, or like the Lord enticed them against that
Right,
person. Yeah.
right. Where it will blatantly say like, yeah, they're being like intrigued or enticed by the enemy, and so and it gives us indicator that like they're kind of out of themselves. It's like a whole different spirit that has overtaken them, and that's like speaking. And we don't get to see that with these friends, and that leads me to think that like, yeah, these were their real like hearts, intentions, and like what they were kind of really feeling and thinking.
That's even worse.
Without, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's even worse.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And which is interesting that you mentioned this because we're having this conversation right now about Satan and God and influence and stuff. But like you said, it does not show up in their language, like of his friends. No, it shows up in the language of an Elihu later on. Like he's like one of the first people that kind of like mentions like this, like there could be other heavenly beings like doing things.
Yeah.
But like to them, it's pretty much like black and white. You did wrong, God's gonna boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did this, God's gonna boom. And like the Lord's like, there's so many other things happening right now that you're not even aware. Exactly. Like this wisdom that you're not even aware of right now that's happening.
Which I'm glad you pointed that out, because it kind of had me think about how there are different like just maturity levels when it comes to like our knowledge of God, and how we're always constantly ever learning and ever growing and all those different things, but they did lack this depth part.
It was very one-dimensional.
It was
Very,
for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I'm going back to this in my mind because I'm like a visual, like I'm seeing this in my mind, like, you know, how the whole thing started, like, you know, try him if you want to. And I feel like the enemy is trying to use everything. Like, so he's using his friends, he's using everything, because the Lord said, just don't, you know, try to take his life or anything. So I feel like he's using all of the tools that he has, which unfortunately are his boys at this time.
And two is like, I kind of feel like, isn't it worse off that like Job is giving God gratitude even in his worst state versus when he was on top? Because that was the whole thing. Like Satan's like, oh no, of course he's good, because like he has everything.
Right.
But like this has to be even more hurtful. Like you should have just like left it alone. Because now you're really gonna see God be glorified in the worst state that somebody can be. And now you look stupid.
Definitely.
He didn't even think it was possible, probably. Right.
And that's his ego.
Because he couldn't.
So he's like, that was the whole fall. Like, I'm better than him. So if I couldn't, you know, he can't. Surprise, surprise.
You thought.
You did think that.
I love it. No, it is. And Job knows his downfall. Like, he knows how far he has, like, fallen. I feel like he continues to, like... Sorry, I didn't tea. But he continues to, like, I guess, find revelation, like, how far he has fallen, right? Like, we got the glimpse, like you said, up front of, like, the family and... you know, his wealth and all of that, and then, you know, his friends, but now it's just like, I think we mentioned it before, someone was like, okay, just random people are just not even looking at me or listening to me.
In 30?
I'm still in 29, actually. No, good. And 29 in verse 21 said, men listened to me with expectations, waiting silently for my advice. After a word from me, they did not speak again. My speech settled on them like dew. Like, these are all the things he was saying. Like, he's like, I lived as, this is verse 25, I lived as a king among his troops, like one who comforts those who mourn. And like, for me, he's like, this is who I used to be. Right? Like, I had all these things. I think it is just settling in sometimes. He's probably still taking in, like, man, like, I'm going back and forth with y'all. Y'all not listening to me. Clearly not listening. And there was a point where, like, I used to speak and nobody used to say anything afterwards. We would not have this back and forth.
Because you knew your place.
Like, I had this type of esteem. Like, I had this type, you know, I was the most well off in the land. Like, this... really I was respected. A prince. Like, I was like a king. Like, but now, here I am. You know, and I was...
it was sad.
It was really sad. The gravity of it is just, like, hitting him. Like,
it is. And he's saying this after he even says, like, in verse, 15, I was eyes to the blind, and feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy. I searched out the cause of him whom I didn't know. Like, he's like, I've done all these things. And now nobody even, like, listens to a word that I say.
For sure. Because we talked about this earlier, like, them speaking against his character and saying that he didn't even give to the poor and, like, all these different things. And then now we do get to see him, like, give us more intimate details of, like, how he did conduct himself. And even I love verse 14 where it says, I put on righteousness as my clothing and justice was my robe and my turban. And then in some later verses in the same chapter, I'm sure he even talk about, like, man, like, even my wife my wife ain't trying to like hear nothing I say, and like,
and that was definitely not the culture. Like,
no, that's true.
It's not and I keep on thinking of this in cultural context. Like, that was not at all the culture.
Yeah.
That was a bold move for her.
It was.
Yeah, he's like, I'm calling for my servants, and like, ain't nobody like really here and checking for me. Like, what's going on?
Right. That's the disrespect, though. I feel like he's just like, ouch.
Yeah.
Like, that is really hurtful.
Also, too, it's like, what's hurtful as well is like, y'all were doing all these things when I had it all.
Right.
And the moment I don't have anything. Is this what our relationship was all about? Like, now I can't even get a hi.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Right.
Can I sit with you? Can I get a hug? Like, none of that. It's like, they're just like, depart from me. Like, get away from me. Like, we don't want nothing to do with you. And that's very sad to know that it's like their entire town. Because in my mind, I'm like, well, it seems like they have a small, intimate town enough for it to be like a wow. Like, I'm the talk of the town, basically. I'm the talk of the town. And this is heavy.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people, and even today, have the desire for proximity to greatness, or proximity to riches, or proximity to fame. And we see that playing out right now in this day and age when someone tumbles and falls, and that's when everybody's like, oh, well, I knew he was this, or I knew she was that in the beginning. Like, oh, I got receipts. But okay, where were those receipts when they were prosperous and you could benefit from that? Now that you can't benefit, you want to disassociate yourself with that. And I feel like that's a lot of what we're seeing right now.
Which is crazy because nobody has ever seen him done wrong. I'm sure.
Like,
But they're just making it up.
But just because he has lost everything, like you said, now it's kind of like, oh yeah, nah, we not messing with Job. And in verse 1 of chapter 30, it's like, but now they laugh at me. Like, no, this is the cold part though.
Please read it, because I know what you're about to say. Come on.
This verse 1. This CSB version is so disrespectful. He said, but now they mock me, men younger than I am, whose fathers I would have refused to put with my sheepdogs.
That was the coldest of pieces.
Scratching my head.
He could just drop the mic and almost regain his whole strength from just that. like
where the strut at, Joe?
Like he probably, his leg was messed up. But
it'd be a gangster limp at this point.
He can get that cane.
I was just about to say that. I can see him getting that cane.
Get
Hold
your
up
little
now.
gangster limp back.
I feel like one of his servants should have came back just from this. That would have been good. Sheepdogs?
Sheep. Listen, he can't be my
Joe.
sheepdogs.
But now you try to talk back to me, and you're not even worthy to be with my dogs. No, but not even that. The younger men's fathers.
Yeah, your daddy.
Like it was
Like,
generational
I'm
kisses.
Right, and you your daddy's son.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about?
Yo, yeah.
Right. So you know, if your dad is not good enough, you are not. You young buck.
So I'm like, whoa.
Man. That was the coldest of pieces.
Spitting that hot fire.
Yes.
They could have tucked their chain in right after that.
Come on.
Listen.
Y'all should have stopped at that.
No.
Listen.
And this is just Job speaking. We ain't even got to God yet.
Right.
So you better get right. Come correct.
Come correct. Because he's like, because we're 30 chapters in now, y'all.
He gotta be tired.
Enough's enough.
This is a long journey.
This is a long,
Y'all still
trifling discussion with them. Like, but you know what? We've discussed this before.
Yeah.
But I love how he takes a moment to he doesn't just. The diss track doesn't come out immediately. He's been thinking about this for a minute. Because he's addressing stuff from a few chapters.
Right.
He was like, and I didn't forget.
Yeah, and another thing.
And another thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's good
true.
to me.
And again, love that he came back and said this, because that little thought that came up where I'm like, hold on, your friend's saying, he's like, no, let me clear my name. Because again, all I have is my innocence and my integrity. And what I won't allow you guys to do is to discredit what I've done. Not that I have to prove it to you, because the Lord knows. He's seen, his eyes are on me. But just so y'all know.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, and he's like in verse 29, I'm a brother to jackals and a companion of ostriches. It's just like, ain't nobody for me. Like, I'm just out here in the wild.
Right. With animals.
With the animals.
And thank God they ain't speaking to me.
Right.
saying it.
At least I'm grateful that we don't speak the same language.
Right.
Ain't got nothing to say.
Right, because everybody else is saying it all.
Yes.
That's his last straw. If the birds are like, hey, this is what I heard.
Don't do it to
Church.
me,
Church.
Lord.
That's real. Right?
Yeah, but I love using his language. Now, his other friend might have been angry when he was speaking yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. But in 16, I think one of you guys mentioned it before, verse 16, he's like, and now my soul is poured out within me. My days of affliction have taken hold of me. And it just seems like it's just this, like, I'm just lamenting and I'm just hurt and I'm confused.
Yes.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I'm sad. But it's not anger. Like you said, like he's not lashing out with his words.
That's real.
He's not sinning over here with his words. He's just literally just like, my soul is poured out. Like,
Yeah.
I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I have nothing left. And like that is like this cry of his heart that we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like everybody else is trying to pick fights.
Yep.
So he might be throwing a jab back or two, but like he's not out here to pick a fight with his friends,
Right.
No.
Or anybody.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "Can you just be quiet and sit down with me? Like, can you come give me and my wife some food? Like, can you do something? Like,
Yeah.
I'm
uplift
still
me."
waiting for the ointment to come out. Like,
Yeah.
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 And I just was reading like verses 24 and 25 and so on. It says, surely no one lays a hand on a broken man when he cries for help in his distress. Have I not wept for those in trouble? Have not my soul grieved for the poor? Yet when I hoped for good, evil came, and when I looked for light, then came darkness. And again, like I would hate to have this perception and this, idea, especially from his own experience. He's like, man, like I've sat and grieved with people.
Yeah.
Yet like this is what I'm getting. Like this is what my experience is, and his friends are there. He's telling it to them, and that not be enough of a reality check for them to be like, you know what, we are going hard on him.
Right.
Let's lighten up a little bit. It's really
Take
sad.
one day off, like at least.
Let's take a half day. We'll take that.
And reading
break.
this part again, I think we discussed before, like, they could sleep well at night. But like he says that he can't even get rest and the night pierces his bone. And the pain never rests. And he can't get,
Yeah.
you see the man hasn't, like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is rough.
It is. It is. And it's not over though.
It's not over.
Tomorrow, we're going to hear him do his final appeal. And it'll be the last words that we hear from Job. And then that's it. And then we go on to one more friend, and then God's going to speak. So I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
Me too. This is the best part.
It is. So thanks for joining us today, y'all. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for the VIBEZ Daily Podcast. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or download our favorite, the VIBEZ Church app. Visit vibes.church/devoted for additional episodes, notes, details, and the latest merch.